Landowners and anti-Virgilians. Draw inspiration from the vineyards of southern Europe. Bring an empirical scientific approach to traditional agrarian practices. And make a catastrophic mistake when it comes to the practice of manuring.
Oh, God. It's time to talk Tull to me.
And it's all over me. There's so many mistakes you can make when manuring.
What's that smell? Oh, it's just talk Tull to me.
It was a terrible mistake I made. Welcome back. I am Omen Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are Feckless Momes.
And this is Talk Tull to Me.
A radical series of innovations in the agricultural arena of prog rock, in which nitrogen-fixing Nick and organic Omen tend and harvest and preserve every single crop that seminal prog rock band Jethro Toe has ever planted. Every song a seed, every well-ordered field an album, Nick and I will till, aerate, irrigate, fumigate, perforate, rotate, and celebrate our way through the entire Jethro Tull discography, from the hunter and gatherer days of stand-up, all the way down the line to the hydroponic systems of .com. Nick and I will burn the Barlow biofuel, ride the Glasscock grain elevator, and get covered in Martin's mulch, all for your listening pleasure, and to ensure that Farmer Anderson's flute is never fallow.
We will be sure to titillate. You please be sure to hydrate.
Nick!
Omen!
Welcome back to the fringes of civilization here on the bonus tracks of Heavy Horses.
That's it, the fringes of Heavy Horses, yeah. Heavy Horse Fringe.
We're really in the bushes, like on the verge of the field, next to the roundabout.
Yeah, you can't really plant anything here. It'll just be stumpy and sad, but I mean it's a useful tract of land at least.
It's great for the songbirds.
Yeah, pollinators. You can plant some wildflowers.
Sure.
That's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And boy, have we!
Oh, have we pollinated so many things? Speaking of pollination, no, I got nothing. But we do have some stuff to go over before we dive into the episode at hand. We've got Mary and Marley, if you don't mind.
And Marley.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary.
Awesome.
That's a very fetching swimsuit you have on. Doesn't leave much to the imagination. I got it when we moved.
I think I think she's got part of the new Talk Tull to Me merch on, Omen.
That's right. The Talk Tull to Me bikini.
That's right. A very special, limited release. Only Mary bought one.
Freeze up me movements when I'm fatting off the crocodiles.
Those are alligators, Mary. Please.
There's a difference.
You're embarrassing yourself.
So that was the thing that I wanted to mention is we've got merch now.
We sure do. It is our logo on anything you want, basically.
Pretty much. It's on TeePublic. You can go to TeePublic, TeePublic.com and search for Talk Tull to Me. Or there's also a link in the show notes. We've got 2 designs that can go on t-shirts and mugs and pillows. Unfortunately, no bikinis. Mary bought them all.
She got
so many.
She got the entire stock.
One for every day of swimsuit season, I think.
That's right. And you know,
so
for all of you maximalists out there, and I know you're listening, what would be more satisfying than listening to Talk Tull with me? What's our podcast called, Nick?
Talk Tull to Me.
What would be more satisfying than listening to Talk Tull to Me in a Talk Tull to Me t-shirt?
While drinking from your Talk Tull to Me mug.
While drinking tea from your Talk Tull to Me mug of tea.
Yeah.
Mug.
Shockingly, or maybe not so shockingly, I think we've sold more mugs than t-shirts.
That doesn't shock me in the least.
Not based upon our listenership.
I lost electrons hearing that news, Nick.
I'm bored by how banal that fact is.
But it is also exciting at the same time.
It is.
So yeah, if you want Talk Tull to Me merch, go and get you some. It'll be the envy of your friends, the annoyance of your spouses, and the constant source of a warm feeling in your tummy when you gaze upon it.
Go get that merch, and when you receive it, take a picture, post it on Instagram, and tag it #TTTM merch.
TTTTM merch. Minus one T. Talk Tull to Me merch.
TTTMERCH.
Oh, yeah. That's exciting news.
Super exciting.
Also, Nick, there's something else that's exciting.
What would that be?
The constellation above our heads is constantly growing. The astronomers are writing us angry letters because they cannot keep up with how many stars are in the sky.
Sir, sensors have detected another star in the sky.
Dear Lord, that's 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars.
That's right, all the way from the American state of Texas. Brian B. writes, best podcast ever. He continues, okay, so that might be a little hyperbole, but I absolutely love this. I run across this podcast when streaming for Michael Collins, Jeffrey, and me when Michael Collins died. I started at the beginning and just finished Black Satin Dancer. I love the witty repartee between the two hosts and enjoy listening to them talk about the nuances of the songs. I've gotten a much better appreciation for the lyrics that I've been listening to for many years. My first exposure to Tull was probably hearing Bungle in the Jungle on the radio in the early 80s, and my first CDs were Aqualung, Broadsword and the Beast, and War Child. Gradually filling out after that. You guys are awesome. Keep it up.
I think it would be War Child.
War
I think
Child.
you're hitting the R's
I
too
think
heavy.
I am so sorry, Brian B. That was more of a Georgia, Louisiana accent than Texas. But hey, at this point, you should know that accents really are not our strong suit, and so do what you will. But thank you so much for the review, and I apologize.
Thank you for the review, and thank you for... Thank you for the jumpstart. We love, love, love hearing those. They're all, at this point, they're all fairly similar, but we love, I guess, the reinforcement of the fact that...
Jumpstart.
It's jumpstart. Jumpstart and tow me away. Yeah. Well, that's it for loose ends here and there. That's it for a little housekeeping. Before we dive in... Oh, wait. Omen, what is the song we're doing today?
The song we are doing today, Nick, is Horse-Hoeing Husbandry.
Is this one you've never heard before?
That is correct, Nick. This is a new song for my ears.
God, I love that thing. It's so good.
It's nice.
We've got a new song for you. However, before we dive into the song itself, I want to give us a little bit of info before we dive into the talk of it literally straight from Ian Anderson's mouth. That's right. I have an audio clip of Ian talking about, of all songs, this song.
This is an actual audio clip, not all the times that we've cried wolf and one of us has done a silly voice and then said it's an audio clip. No, this is a real audio clip.
That's correct. It is from an interview with Fanny Kiefer, who is a Canadian apparently broadcast legend on her show Studio 4. And
Sure.
Here's just a tiny little clip of Ian referencing.
Yeah.
So this Jethro Toe character, he 18th century gentleman who invented a seed driller or something like that?
He was an agronomist, really. That was his trade. He was also an amateur musician. He played organ in his local church, and it was from an old church organ, dismantled and lying in a corner, that he took the various bits and pieces to put together to invent his first seed drill, an automated drill for putting seed in the ground. And most famously wrote a book called Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, which was really a sort of primitive economic treatise on on the most efficient ways of farming, using crop rotation and trying to find ways of maximizing the use of a small
Sure.
plot of land. So he kind of wrote the book on what has become traditional farming.
Horse-Hoeing Husbandry.
Yeah.
That's a good name for a band.
It's a little
Maybe
bit of a
too long.
mouthful, isn't it?
I'm thinking.
I did actually once write a song called Horse-Hoeing Husbandry. I think it's still in an old notebook somewhere. But the lyrics, it's just something you wouldn't want to sing.
I mean, he's not wrong. Real quick, a little more on Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, the book.
So, Nick, you did do some research on this
I did
song.
a little
I'm disappointed
bit,
in you.
A little bit. Published in 1751, and the full title, I'm just going to give you the full title. That's all we need to talk
Please.
about. You know how they're all of those books from back then it's like Horse-Hoeing Husbandry or blah, 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 blah,
Yes,
blah, blah.
that's also how I named my essays in college.
I am in no way surprised. So the full title of this book, Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, or An Essay on the Principles of Vegetation and Tillage, designed to introduce a new method of culture whereby the produce of land will be increased and the usual expense lessened, together with accurate descriptions and cuts of the instruments employed in it. 1751, by the OG JT.
That's right. I actually believe that there was a previous version, maybe a non-complete version, published even a little earlier in 1731.
Oh, are we going to get into that?
We are going to get into all kinds of stuff, Nick.
Okay.
All kinds of stuff.
Before we get into that, let's get into the song, I think.
Let's do just that.
Horse-hoeing husbandry, prepare the way for the profit maker.
Nick McGill.
Omen Said, Horse-Hoeing Husbandry.
Holy heck.
Holy heck, Honcho, Horse-Hoeing Husbandry.
Why don't we, as strong men do, talk about our feelings?
Oh, God. I feel this song is... I think there's a reason this song came out forever after it was officially done, officially recorded. It's not quite up to snuff as to what we've heard on Heavy Horses. However, I really dig this song.
Do you?
I do. It's a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Musically, it's a lot of fun.
Do you have the emotional space for me to talk about my feelings?
I would much rather people talk about their feelings, and I don't have, that way I don't have to.
I know. That's what alcohol is for. I agree wholeheartedly with Ian Anderson when he said that the lyrics of this song is not something that anyone would want to sing or listen to.
Yeah.
And I also think that this is probably my least favorite piece of music that I've ever heard come from Jethro Tull.
No. Airplane, think
I haven't heard
Sunshine.
Airplane.
Oh, you haven't? Ooh.
No.
Sunshine Day. Did you ever listen to Sunshine Day?
Yeah, I prefer that marginally to this.
Do you seriously? Oof.
Yeah, musically, absolutely.
Wow.
Let's play Sunshine Day. Let's recap Sunshine Day real quick.
Woke up this morning to look at things in their funny way. Why can't they be like they used to be only yesterday? Ooh, ain't that my sunshine day?
Yeah, that's awful, but at least it's fun.
Yeah. Ugh.
Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, I feel, is awful and very serious.
It's very serious. It's dour. If I could listen to it without the lyrics, I'd be all the happier for it.
If I could listen to it without the music and without the lyrics, that would be fine with me.
Just 4 minutes of silence.
But let's talk about what there is to talk about. It does seem, and it's all credit where credit is due. This is obviously not one that Ian was like, oh yeah, let's put this on an album. People will love it.
Yeah.
He judiciously hid it away from our ears until we somehow pried it out from underneath his dragonous body.
For that.
Yeah, sometimes it's best to leave sleeping dogs lap.
It is. It is best to do that. Yeah, you're right.
It does give me the impression of a rehearsal take. I don't feel like this was a fully fleshed out song. And like I feel like it is being played under tempo because it maybe is the first and last time that it was ever played by this group of musicians. Like they played it and then we're like, well, never have to do that again.
We don't even need to practice this. With this one, let's chuck that in the bin.
But if it had been polished, perhaps it would have been a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
There are some interesting things going on. I don't know if it's Steve Wilson's hand or Ian's or Martin's or whom's. But the beginning has that big chord, which I think is maybe just an electric guitar, panning left and right in the ears, which is kind of fun.
It's a weird, like a resonant. Is it? Did you say electric? I thought it sounded like an acoustic. I don't know. It could be.
I don't know. It's some. Yeah. I feel like it's a guitar with a filter. Maybe it is an acoustic guitar with a filter.
The left comes in, stays there, and then a right comes in, and then another left comes in, and then the song officially starts.
Yes.
Weird resonance.
There's the organ that comes in shortly after that.
Oh my gosh, John Evan is banging on this song.
Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, prepare the way for the profit maker.
It feels to me like the style of this feels to me like something that was recorded a little later on. Maybe even during, some of the sounds remind me of Broadsword and the Beast.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's hard to say, it's hard to put my finger on it, but just some of the organ settings maybe, and the chord changes, the little musical turns that are done, they seem reminiscent of more of the 80s to me than the Heavy Horses period.
Yeah, whether it's piano or organ to keyboard set on piano, when it's on that piano sound, like it's very broad and sweeping and very lovely. It's doing a bang up job of replacing what could very easily be D's strings.
Yes, which are notably absent from this song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably never reached the point of getting to D where they said, hey, we need strings here,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was abandoned much earlier than that part of the process. It does seem to me also like there are a couple of cuts in it, like it was recorded, maybe pieced together out of a couple of different sections. My favorite part of the song is probably the one-note bass riff. That ends in a little glitch sound and then goes into the breakdown, which I actually like a lot more than the rest of the song.
Yeah, that last minute and 45, that instrumental breakdown is awesome, but it is such a distinctive, like, boop, we're going to chop this and plop it in, and they phoned that edit in so bad.
Yeah, so there is the tambourine and flute that come in, and for me, they really make a big difference in this song. Like, and we've seen this before, where we have kind of a more serious. I mean, we could look at Velvet Green, even. The lyric section of Velvet Green is a little bit darker and more serious, quote unquote, and then the instrumental breaks into a little bit more lightness.
Sure. There's a lot of lightness going on in that breakdown. There's a lot of flavor and depth. That's the meatiest part of this song.
I agree. I wonder if Martin is not on this track because the electric guitar does not sound like him. It sounds like Ian laying in a dummy track to play to Martin later on, and then Martin to do it really well.
I would say the exact same thing. Yeah, it is. I barely even noticed that there was electric. That's how non-Martin electric it is.
Not that Martin always takes over when he plays. It's just that it's always very distinct.
Yeah, he's got such a signature sound, though. You can tell that when you do hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's assuredly Martin.
Yes. This has all the markings of a rehearsal kind of scratch recording.
Yeah.
That was to be used as for reference later on.
Talking about the guitar, though, the acoustic is very lovely. I mean, it's not Ian phoning in acoustic. It's very nice.
Well, I mean, it's still real musicians.
Right.
They're just playing. It's just, like it's almost like a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, it's a practice.
Yeah, at the rehearsal process. There's something very dirge-like, though, about the pace.
Yeah, it does trudge a little bit, yeah. So we start out with that acoustic and the piano. That's where we start. Eventually at like the second or third line, bass, drums, and that's when the electric come in as well.
Yes.
The coin is tossed and spinning lands.
And then that's really it for the most of it. And there is that really weird, the first of the weird cuts or lack of transitions is where it goes through and does some of the verses, and then it drops into this weird like bass, drum, and bass, like bum, 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 bum. And then he goes in again and he gets a little more sweeping with the lyrics and the rest of the musicality, but it's just all of a sudden, boom, there it is.
Yeah. It's a funny one. It does feel, this feels more like musical archaeology than, a fully furnished piece.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah, it is. We on top of that, there's so little known about this song. Ian talks about it once. There's little to go on in terms of knowledge, so it is more speculation than anything else.
But what we do know is that it was one that he admitted in an interview was just some random thing that he wrote and had no intention of ever performing.
Yeah, that's a pretty valuable piece of information, yeah.
So, with the musical part out of the way, shall we talk about the lyrics?
I mean, if we can.
I think we can, and I think we should. Now, I do think, though, we should admit that we couldn't find lyrics online.
Yeah.
Official lyrics. And so this is our best guess. And you did the legwork of going through and writing down what you believe to be the lyrics. And I think you got it for the most part. There was one part where I think that you heard one thing and I think there was a slightly other thing.
Yeah, there were a few moments where Ian always drops and muddies the ends of his sentences.
Sure.
So you go on the sound of the grunt and trust to the rhyme scheme. And and you try and fill in your own word based on the context. And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
Well, this is why we have lyrics printed in album covers.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I was going to say that the song is polymetered, but
yeah,
no one cares. I do think, though, that we should talk a little bit about, for a change, Jethro Tull, Esquire.
OGJT?
OGJT.
OGJT ESQ.
Indeed, yes.
All right, yeah, it's been a while. Let's talk about him.
It has been a while. So as Ian stated, Jethro Tull, OG, 1700s, was an agrarist.
Agrarian, agronomist, agriculturist. I've seen it all. It probably all means roughly the same thing. I like agronomist.
Yes.
It sounds very, very archaic.
Agronomist.
Agronomist, agronomy.
That's better lyrics.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nick, let's talk about agriculture.
Yes, let's.
Back in the day, we didn't do it. And then...
Okay, and then we did,
and then we did. And from that point, it went through a couple of different really big innovations. One of the earliest treatises on the practice of growing things in the ground and keeping animals, which is broadly referred to as husbandry, the word coming from two words, one of them Norse, basically hus, and bioni, which is like house and worker, so like a worker who owns their house, i.e. someone who runs a farm. Mm-hmm. So Virgil, your friend and mine, who guided Dante Alighieri on his Divine Comedy, the Roman poet Virgil, wrote a tract called the Georgics. Oh yes, the Georgics. That detailed, it was an informative poem that he wrote that basically described farming practices, and that was used as the basis among the reading peoples for the proper way to approach agriculture.
That's par for the course for those super ancient writers. Like, the Greeks would write great long books about all sorts of things, animals and plants and the weather and the heavens and Pliny,
Cato,
Plato, Pliny. Yeah, the classics.
The guys.
Those guys. Those guys.
Yes, but the Georgics was one that held a lot of power in Western civilization. And it described a number of practices, and specifically when it related to tilling or hoeing, which is breaking up the ground so that the seeds can go more easily into it. Virgil recommended basically as little tilling as possible. So you just kind of would agitate the ground with your hoe, the whole field, and then you would spread the seed just by throwing it at the field, and then you would hoe it a little bit more with a hand tool just to kind of cover up the seeds.
Yeah.
Tull, when visiting southern Europe and seeing the grapevines, observed the practice of planting grapevines in rows and the cultivation of grapevines being planted very specifically in rows. And he had kind of a brain moment and was like, well, what if we did that with all of our crops?
We refer to those as ideas.
Oh, yes, a thought, if you will. And it was kind of revolutionary. And so he brought this idea back to England and started experimenting with it. And so instead of just tilling up the entire field, throwing some seed at it and retilling it, he would say, all right, let's just till this. Would till in a straight line. And then to make that more efficient, we'll actually hook up the plow to a horse, i.e., horse-hoeing husbandry. You see where this is going, Nick?
Yeah, because hoeing is putting a line in the dirt, is moving the dirt aside. Yeah.
And so by tilling up just a row and then planting the seeds more sparsely, one at a time, that's where the seed drill comes in. He was able to save the amount of seed that was used while simultaneously increasing the productivity of the fields. The seed drill was specifically invented, apparently, because he would tell his laborers, okay, plant one seed 2 inches down every 3 inches apart, and they basically hated him and were like, why would we do that? That's crazy. And so he was like, you know what, fine, I'll just invent this thing that does it for me.
And they were out of a job.
Which was funny because that was their fear about his inventions, is that they were going to put them out of a job. And apparently there were a lot of conflicts between he and his laborers. But all of this was toward this idea that you could, year after year, make scientific improvements to the practice of farming, which would not only increase profits, but also increase the ability to make food and serve the world.
It was essentially like, was it Mendelssohn who did evolution with the peas, basically, because you could learn as things happen?
It might be Mendelssohn. Let me look that up.
But yeah, basically, okay, this worked, this didn't, in terms of farming and in terms of genetics. It's if I breed this and this is the trait that we get.
Gregor Mendel. Yes. So what these practices allowed was agriculture on a different scale, which allowed civilization really to move from a more subsistence model into a more overproducing model, which spurred on things like trade. And so the agricultural revolution that Jethro Tull was on the forefront of really laid the groundwork for the Industrial Revolution. His practices were put into his ideas were put into practice in the cotton plantations in the American South.
Okay.
So you can see the direct kind of evolution of this.
Aside from subsistence and subsistence and abundance, I think it's a matter of being able to reliably do something that will yield, so you can know, barring unforeseen circumstances, you can know what you're planting, what will yield, as opposed to, like you said, that kind of spray and pray method of like, oh, there's a corn plant over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To read a little bit of an excerpt from a later publication of his book, the editor writes, "It would be to go too far to give Jethro Tull credit for modern agriculture, because our modern understanding is the result of countless and often forgotten or nameless researchers and developers. Technological mechanized agriculture, that foundation on which modern agriculture is built, being the product of scientific thought, would have been invented by a scientific person sooner or later, if Tull did not do so. Yet it is no small praise to say it was Tull who invented the tools and discovered the knowledge required for mechanized agriculture. So he started a movement that was developed into a really worldwide change in the way that civilization operated.
That editor sounds like Stephen Peacock.
It was. Stephen Peacock's first job was in the 1800s republishing Jethro Toe books.
Yeah, that's what it felt like there. Yeah.
So, Nick,
Yeah.
if we at long last go back to the lyrics,
Yes, that.
Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, prepare the way for the profit maker.
Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, prepare the way for the profit maker.
Well, if you have massively overproduced a crop and figured out how to preserve it and transport it, you can start making profit on a different scale than you have ever done before.
Yeah, you're not just producing food for yourself and maybe your neighbors to trade for some eggs. You know, you are going beyond, and it is becoming a profitable venture for you.
Yeah, you're not going down to the market and selling a bushel for a goose. You are destroying the economies of faraway countries by overwhelming them with grain.
Yeah. Let's subsidize this and flood the market. Yeah.
Right. So black figure economy, I believe it's red letter day undertaker. Kind of gives me the impression of, by this simple, quote unquote, simple innovation of strapping a plow to a horse, you can create an economy which red letter day refers to holidays on the calendar. You know, if it's written in red, it's a holiday. And there used to be a lot more of them. And then they have been reduced over time as I think the economic model has overtaken the traditional model of life. And so
Sure, yeah.
Perhaps what he's saying is that the economy, the black figure economy, is the undertaker to the festival days where we all get to relax.
And black figure economy, is that saying making a profit? Because if you're in the black, you're above even. You know, if you're in the red, you're negative, obviously.
I think so. I think that's exactly what it means.
Mm-hmm. The coin is tossed and spinning fast? I don't know.
On paths of clay and fields of sand.
The coin is tossed and spinning lands on paths of clay and fields of sand.
Well, I think that perhaps what we could draw from that contextually is that what these techniques allowed you to do was to take a piece of land that was previously thought to be uncultivatable and literally turn it into a profit. Literally by turning it.
Turning the land, yeah.
Turning the land. Because he was a proponent of deep tillage, which would bring up nutrients. Of course, the thing that he was off on was he didn't believe that manuring or any kind of adding nutrients back into the soil was necessary. He just didn't have a deep enough understanding. He thought you just had to pulverize the soil small enough to get it to be more accessible to the plant roots. And as we have seen in agriculture, there is not enough attention to the health of the soil in our modern mechanized agriculture, as the editor says. And so we end up impoverishing the soil when we do this for years and years. But the thing about this style of agriculture is that for a few years, it works really well.
Oh, sure, yeah. But it's even, because it works so well, it's even more detrimental if you don't do something to offset it. You know, crop rotation is huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, the rest of these lyrics are a bit confusing for me. Mm-hmm. Better die a begotten man, better woman, bird in hand.
Better die a begotten man. Better woman, bird in hand.
Begotten means to be brought into existence. Maybe you're a made man because you're a businessman at this point, as opposed to just living season to season in terms of bringing in your crop for yourself.
Right. It's better to have left a legacy behind you, which is exactly what OG-JT did.
Yeah.
He left a massive legacy.
Yeah. It's not a race we also ran. It is super convoluted. It works better as a poem than it does as lyrics for a song. The lyrics themselves feel like this rough draft of like, okay, I wrote them on the back of a napkin. Let's give
go
her
ahead
a
and
shot.
sing them.
Yeah.
I agree. And yet there is thematically a lot there that relates to the Jethro Tull book, the book Horse-Hoeing Husbandry. So my theory is that Ian Anderson did some research and found this book, Horse-Hoeing Husbandry, and read it, or read some of it, and was like, oh my gosh, this will make an amazing song, because of course it will, and then tried it out, and, not every song is a winner.
Right. Yeah, no one expects every single song to be an automatic aqualung. There have to be hits and misses, otherwise he's not going to be learning and he's not going to be building on what really does work. Just like how Jethro Tull learned how to farm better. Just like how Mendel learned how to understand genetics better. It's all the same thing.
So, Nick, I want to go out so far onto a limb that I need protective gear.
Oh my God, please do. Belay on.
Let me goggle up here for a minute. Is it meta appropriate to draw a connection between Jethro Tull's contribution to a radical and scientific approach to agriculture and Jethro Tull's systematic approach to rock and roll, which destroyed the system, or attempted to destroy the Georgic, simple, traditional system of rock and roll that came before it? Discuss.
Are you saying that for the first couple of years, they really dug up that soil and got some super powerful albums, and then by the time the 80s hit,
the soil was there? I realize now that is maybe what it sounded like I implied. No, but I think that, the thing that Jethro Tull, the agronomist, was good at, even though he made some, massive mistakes because he had a misunderstanding of basic organic chemistry, is that he tried things and saw if they worked, and then adjusted them. I mean, think about Mellotron. Mellotron is the seed drill of rock and roll, Nick. It plants the seeds of notes more efficiently into the soil of our ears.
Okay, I'll give it to you. I'll grant you that. Begrudgingly.
Keep it away from me. I don't want it.
Wow. Yeah.
They also both had their critics, as Rolling Stone has been critical of Jethro Tull, the rock band. Jethro Tull, the agronomist, also had a large number of critics who were very angry that he was doing something different, changing the traditional ways, and had theoretical disagreements with him.
Much like Jethro Tull, the band, it was controversial for its time, and its time thereafter, its prime. I think we can very coincidentally tie these two together, but I think it's just a comparable trajectory.
I'm plowing in the soil as deep as I can on this episode, Nick, and I'm coming up with nothing but dust.
We're barren. We're in fields of clay. No, paths of clay and fields of sand.
Well, let us rotate this crop on to the next week.
Yeah, I recommend everybody go listen to the song at least once, just experience it, and then and that's it. You don't ever need to hear it again.
I also recommend that everyone go and read Horse-Hoeing Husbandry or an essay on the principles of vegetation and tillage at least once.
I don't recommend that. That's asking a lot. Although a lot of our listeners are way better versed and research heavy than we are. So, I mean, maybe they have read it at this point.
Apparently, in the last century, when they did some excavation on Tull's farm, Jethro Tull Esquire's farm,
Ooh,
they
really?
found an experimental plow buried under a bunch of dirt in a shed. And the theory was that his workers stole it and did away with it because they hated it so much.
I thought he was so embarrassed by it that he hid it.
Oh, no. I think he was really into all the things that he created. I wonder if Ian's story is true about him taking a pipe organ and disassembling it and turning it into a seed drill.
I wouldn't be surprised. He sounds like one of those early wacky scientists who would do something like that.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, that's exciting.
Which is funny because Mellotron was actually an old seed drill machine that was disassembled and turned into a soulless mechanical singing man.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
I shall name him Ian Anderson.
Nick, what are we listening to next week?
Next week is... We haven't done one of these in a while. It's a double track.
Oh, my goodness.
And they're both instrumental.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, we're changing things up a little bit. We have Quatrain and then the Botanic Man theme.
Ooh, I love a Botanic Man.
I love a good Botanic Man. We'd throw a little orange bitters in there, maybe a little seltzer water. Yeah, I could go for a Botanic Man right now.
Absolutely. Until next week, you don't have to invent a whole new system of praising us. You can use the old Virgilian traditional system of going onto iTunes and giving us a 5-star rating and a positive review.
To really reach the most nutrient-rich area that you can, don't just scatter your stars across the internet. Go to Apple Podcasts, plant those 5 stars right in a row, and you'll get the most bang for your buck that way.
Contrary to what Jethro Toe would tell you, it is in fact necessary to occasionally fertilize your podcast crop with $1, $5 on the Patreon. It will, it seems like you're just throwing poop at a field, but I tell you what, it is an investment that's going to pay off next season.
I mean, it'll pay off immediately.
It's already paying off.
Access to the Discord, access to 2 extra podcasts a month, plus the backlog, plus the live listening party that we're planning if it hasn't happened by the time this goes. But you know what? We'll probably do another one. So.
And frankly, what else are you going to do with all that manure?
What
really?
are you going to do? We'll take it off your hands.
We'll take your poo. Until next week, I am the handful of seed thrown nonchalantly over the shoulder into a field, Omen said.
I am the flock of birds that will inevitably eat almost all of that seed, Nick McGill.
This is the disassembled pipe organ that is Talk Tull to Me.
And we are the remnants of a machine that was stolen and buried. Feckless Momes. Oh my God.
Oh,
I'm so...
Harold, you look well.
Martin, I am exhausted.
Are you?
You will not believe what Jethro Toe has me doing.
Oh no, I keep telling you, gotta get away from that loon.
He's got this weird machine in the back shed, and I'm walking through a field. I'm digging holes with this machine. I'm planting a bloody seed in there.
A seed in a hole with a machine? Well, it just seems like a lot of extra work. Watch this.
This isn't even your master's field, and you're still working.
I just love it so much. It just feels so right. People have been doing it for thousands of years. Can't be wrong, can it?
It can't. You get at least 3 tomatoes a year with that method.
Oh yeah. Three, maybe 3, 4.
We don't even know if this seed drill's gonna work. We don't know.
And what if you get too many tomatoes?
What are we gonna do?
What are you gonna do with all those tomatoes? It's madness, it is. It's the devil's work.
I'm gonna be picking tomatoes until I die.
What? And then they're just going to rot? Oh no, I bet he's got some kind of fancy system for Satanizing them.
Oh, are they Satan tomatoes?
Satan's tomatoes is what I've heard down at the church.
They're red. He does strike me as a bit of a witch, what with his sciencing.
Oh yeah.
And he took apart the organ. Do you know that? He took apart the organ.
The organ what with we used to praise God with?
We can't sing to Jesus no more.
How's Jesus gonna bless our crops without an organ to sing his praises?
How does he know how much we love him? I'm so scared. I'm scared for my soul, Martin.
My God, there goes one of those infernal devices without a human running it.
Let's bury it in the shed.
Let's bury it. We'll put a warning sign on the shed saying, "Don't go in here."
Oh, yeah.
Told to me is a proud member of the Feckless Momes.
Why don't we say audio network? That'll really scare him off.
Yeah, no one knows what that means.
Yeah.